Have you ever felt like you're living a role, not a life? Each morning you wake up and put on a mask, polite, successful, confident, yet deep within. Something feels unsettled, a vague disquiet as if you're lost in your own life. Carl Jung called that feeling the whisper of the soul. It doesn't shout, it doesn't force, but once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. It's the pull to return not to the self the world expects, but to your original being. Raw, contradictory, yet profoundly real, slumbering in your unconscious. Even in dreams where reason has no control, strange images may appear: a faceless figure, a misty forest, a child calling your name. These are not meaningless. According to Jung, they are messages from the self, your true inner being, speaking through symbol, myth, shadow, and light. You are not who you think you are. You are something more, something deeper, and yes, more paradoxical. Modern psychology often seeks to fix, heal, or optimize the ego. But Jung took a different path. He did not seek to fix people, he sought to help them remember who they were before society trimmed them, education molded them, and family labeled them. He believed each of us carries within a sacred self with a unique purpose and inner symbolism. And the journey to reclaim that self is the process of individuation, becoming whole, not perfect. Perhaps you've felt it in front of a painting, within a haunting melody, or in the silence of nature, a moment so deeply still, you couldn't name it. In that instant, you were no longer you. You were part of something vast, something whole. This video isn't about self-help hacks. Instead, we will venture inward into the psyche, where forgotten wounds, rejected shadows, and seeds of the soul await awakening. We will explore: why do you keep repeating the same painful relationship patterns? Why do dreams carry messages from the other side? And how can you not just understand yourself, but become yourself? Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. The one who seeks light outside will find only illusions, but the one who dares to face the darkness within awakens." You've been dreaming long enough. Now is the time to wake up. And in the next chapter, we begin that journey by removing the first mask, the persona, the social self you thought was you. Stay with us, because when that mask falls, a faint light begins to shine from the self waiting to be named inside you. Are you ready to meet yourself again? The mask and the true self, persona and self. Do you remember the last time you were truly yourself? Not the version you present at work, not the role you play in your family, not the image you've carefully crafted on social media, but you bear alone, unguarded, without effort or performance. Deep down, each of us has touched that moment, even if only briefly. Carl Jung called the face we wear each day the persona, the psychological mask we use to adapt to the world. It's not evil. In fact, it's necessary, like a coat that protects us from the cold winds of society. But over time, we forget it is a coat, not our skin. Persona forms early. From childhood, we learn to please the good child, the model student, the one who always smiles. Layer by layer, the mask thickens. By adulthood, many of us have lost all contact with our true essence, what Jung called the self. The irony: society applauds the persona. It praises those who are agreeable, successful, relentlessly positive. But inside that polished exterior may lie a barren land where the self lies buried, along with forgotten dreams, unspeakable emotions, and the parts of us once labeled too sensitive, too strange, or unrealistic. I once met a successful man, a CEO, always composed, always on the move. But during a quiet, honest conversation, he broke down in tears. Why? Because he had never dared to pick up a paintbrush, even though he'd loved art since he was a boy. "I was taught men shouldn't dream," he said. "I had to choose money, not color." And so the artist within him, the self, was silently killed. Have you ever killed a part of yourself? Maybe it was when you forced yourself to be strong while breaking inside. When you smiled with a scream trapped in your chest. When you buried your confusion, your softness, your longing, afraid others would judge. That is when you locked yourself away like a forgotten child in a dark room. The problem isn't that the persona is wrong. It becomes dangerous when we fully identify with it, when we believe we are the title, the role, the image. And then one day we look in the mirror and no longer recognize the eyes staring back. Jung never told us to destroy the persona. He wasn't extreme. Instead, he taught awareness to recognize when the mask serves us and when it begins to rule us. Above all, he urged us never to forget the self still exists even when unseen. The self is not perfect. It is chaotic, contradictory, filled with light and shadow. But it is real. And only when we dare to meet the self can we become whole. Jung once wrote, "I'd rather be whole than good." He preferred the truth of wholeness over the performance of goodness. But how do we begin? How can we tell what is persona and what is self? The answer doesn't lie in logic, it lies in feeling. Notice the lump in your throat when you can't explain why. Notice the recurring dreams, the strange images that won't leave you alone. Notice the desires you abandoned because they were impractical. That is the language of the self. That is your soul knocking gently but persistently. When Jung himself fell into a deep personal crisis after his break with Freud, he didn't search outward. He listened to his dreams. He drew symbols. He spoke to his unconscious. And from that journey emerged the Red Book, a map into the soul unlike anything psychology had seen. A living testament that the self is not far away. It is whispering within you every day. The world is not lacking in successful people. What it lacks are their authentic people. Those who live in rhythm with their souls, who embrace their contradictions, who can say, "I'm not perfect, but I am real." If you've ever felt lost in hollow conversations, if you've grown tired of pretending you're fine, if you're searching for a space to simply be unfiltered, unmasked, you are not alone. We are building a community for people like you, seekers of inner truth. Leave a comment, share your story. Someone out there might read it and find themselves in your words. Let us connect. Let this journey no longer be a solitary one. And in the next chapter, we will go even deeper into the shadows of the psyche, the shadow self. Not just the negative, but all that has been denied. And you may be surprised to discover, in the shadow, the self waits. Stay with us because what matters most often lies in the place we least want to go. Are you ready to look within, not to fix, but to understand? To love yourself as if you were a sacred mystery waiting to be revealed. Facing the darkness, the call of the shadow. Have you ever exploded with anger out of nowhere? A single harmless sentence from someone, and suddenly you want to tear everything apart. Or maybe you felt jealousy, selfishness, rage, or vulnerability, feeling so uncomfortable and shameful that you instantly push them out of awareness. But they don't disappear. They just retreat into a realm Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is the collection of all parts of yourself that you cannot or will not acknowledge. It may be your sensitivity, your passion, your sensuality, your aggression, your greed, your fear of abandonment. Anything that doesn't fit the persona, your social mask, is exiled to the dark. But the shadow doesn't die. It lives. It waits. And it quietly steers your life from behind the curtain. The more someone denies their shadow, the more power it has over them. Like the man who prides himself on being moral and disciplined, but secretly spirals into addiction or infidelity. Or the woman who is always gentle and composed until she erupts like a volcano, seemingly out of nowhere. These aren't mood swings. They are the shadow rising after being repressed for too long. Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So how do we face the shadow? Jung didn't advise us to kill or control it. He invited us to have a dialogue. Like an abandoned child, the shadow needs to be heard, not punished. Acknowledging your shadow doesn't make you weak. On the contrary, it is one of the bravest acts of selfhood. In the Red Book, Jung chronicled his own descent into the darkness of the psyche. No guide, no map, just a truthful heart and a mind willing to embrace contradiction. He described encounters with inner figures, Elijah, Salome, Philemon, each symbolizing a different aspect of himself. Through them, he discovered, you are not just you. You are a vast, conflicted cosmos yearning to be reconciled. You don't need to be a psychologist to begin this work. Start small. Write in a journal when you're angry, jealous, or afraid. Don't judge, just observe. Ask, where is this feeling coming from? When have I felt this before? Imagine talking to that part of you and listen. The answers may surprise you. A man in a therapy group once said I always scolded my wife for being too emotional. But when I dialogued with that part in myself, I realized I envied her emotional freedom. My father taught me that boys shouldn't cry, so I buried my feelings long ago. And in that moment, everything began to shift. We cannot become the self without passing through the shadow. Because in that darkness lie the lost fragments of our soul waiting to be embraced. It is repressed life, frozen energy, the inner child who was never asked, how do you feel? Here's a beautiful truth few will tell you. Inside the shadow, there is light. The shadow holds not only your wounds, but also your gifts. The dreams, desires, and brilliance that were once silenced because they didn't fit. Maybe you wanted to be an artist, but were told to be a doctor. Maybe you loved someone unacceptable and forced yourself to let go. Maybe you were a creative, sensitive child and were labeled too dreamy. The shadow keeps everything that's truly yours, the parts you left behind. Recognizing it isn't just about healing, it's about resurrection. Jung saw this as part of individuation, the journey of becoming whole. It means looking at every part of yourself without fear or judgment. And in that moment, you are no longer a copy of anyone else. You are uniquely, undeniably yourself. If this speaks to your soul, don't stay silent. Share your story in the comments. You may think it's nothing special, but to someone else, your words could be the key that unlocks their own inner door. We are creating a space safe, sacred, where you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. Join this community, a circle of souls waking up from social conditioning and returning to who they truly are. And in the next part, we'll venture deeper into one of Jungian psychology's most mystical landscapes. Anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine forces within each of us. You'll see how our outer relationships are often reflections of unfinished conversations within, and how true love begins not by seeking outward, but by uniting the energies within. Darkness is not the enemy. It is the misunderstood companion. And when you embrace it, you open the doorway to your most sacred light. Meeting anima and animus, symbols of the inner soul. Have you ever loved someone so deeply it felt like you were melting into them? Not just physical attraction or fleeting emotion, but the sense that you had found a long-lost piece of your soul from some other lifetime. Such people, whether they stay or leave, often leave the deepest mark on our inner awakening. According to Carl Jung, these moments are not merely romantic. They are the reflections of anima and animus, two of the most powerful spiritual symbols in the journey of individuation. Anima is the inner feminine within a man's psyche. Animus is the inner masculine within a woman's soul. They are not tied to biology, but are ancient living psychological principles residing in the collective unconscious. When we love, when we dream, when we create, it is often anima or animus working beneath the surface. Anima appears as muse, lover, mother, soul. She is the voice of feeling, intuition, imagination, the instinctual bond with life itself. A man disconnected from anima becomes dry, logical, but lifeless, successful, but hollow. He may master the world, yet remain a stranger to his own depths. Animus within a woman's psyche is the voice of reason, power, and independent will. But when unintegrated animus can become rigid, controlling, leading her to harden, losing touch with her heart. A woman governed by an immature animus may live in a world of expectations, yet never feel truly fulfilled. Jung did not urge us to eliminate anima or animus. Quite the opposite, he saw the reconciliation with these forces as essential to becoming whole. Only when the inner masculine and feminine unite can we feel complete without needing to chase wholeness outside ourselves. But this is no easy task. Most of us only meet anima or animus through others through romantic relationships. Have you ever loved someone who felt like no one else and later found yourself disappointed, disillusioned? They didn't deceive you. You projected your anima or animus onto them. You didn't love them. You loved the part of your own soul you hadn't yet lived. She was never truly the muse you were being called to awaken your intuition and feeling. He was never truly the savior you were being asked to reclaim your inner strength and clarity. When you take back the images you unconsciously handed to others, something extraordinary happens. You begin to love yourself, not from emptiness, but from understanding. Love becomes not compensation, but communion. You no longer search for your other half because you are already a whole circle. Jung wrote about his own encounter with anima through dreams, images, and symbols in the Red Book. One of the most profound was his vision of Salome, a blind, seductive figure, both shadow and light. Through her, he didn't just learn to love, he learned humility. For anima cannot be tamed, she can only be listened to. And so the journey of integrating anima and animus is not merely psychological. It is an art of living. It is the ability to hold softness within strength, firmness within grace. To fight for what is right and still allow yourself to cry. To no longer need someone else to complete you because within your heart and mind have already met. Reflect on the relationships in your life. Who stirred something in you that you had never dared to live? What did they awaken that had long been sleeping? To love them was in truth to be led back to yourself. And if you're single or healing from heartbreak, Know that your journey has not ended. In fact, it has only just begun. This is the invitation of anima/animus to return inward to gather what was forgotten and begin the greatest love of all, the love of your true self. If you've ever felt out of place in today's fast-paced, disposable dating world, if you long for a love with depth and soul, you are not alone. We are creating a space where you can speak these longings without shame. Leave a comment. Who was the first person to awaken the unlived soul in you? Because in writing it down, you begin the sacred work of reconnection. And in the next chapter, we'll explore the language of the soul symbols. For the self does not speak in words, but in images and dreams, a coin that falls at the perfect moment, a snake in the garden, or a child in a painting. Stay with us because once you learn the symbolic language, you'll begin to understand the truths your rational mind has long forgotten. Anima is not just a muse. Animus is not just a protector. They are mirrors showing you the way home to your soul. Symbols, the language of the soul. In every life, there are strange, almost sacred moments when a door opens just as you're about to give up, when a random sentence awakens something deep inside you, when a mysterious image appears in a dream, like a message from another realm. Florence Scovel Shinn called these moments the divine pattern, a sacred design orchestrated by the infinite mind. Carl Jung had another word, symbols, the language of the soul, incomprehensible to reason, but instantly recognized by the heart. Symbols do not explain themselves with logic. They resonate, like when you dream of a dragon and feel both fear and awe, or when you stand in a sunlit desert, empty, vast, and somehow know this is you. Symbols are not mere images. They are messages from the self, the sacred essence within, whispering what you most need to know. Florence once wrote, "Intuition is a spiritual faculty and does not explain but simply points the way." Symbols are like intuition. They do not argue. They direct. And the path they reveal doesn't lead outward. It leads inward into the inner temple where dreams, memories, emotions, and synchronicities play like a symphony composed just for you. Carl Jung spent his life studying symbols, mandalas, crosses, circles, snakes, heroes, darkness, light, each one, a miniature map of the spiritual journey. He didn't just interpret symbols, he lived with them. In the Red Book, he drew them, wrote poetry to them. Let them speak truth no philosopher could articulate. Symbols carry profound healing power, not because they erase pain, but because they sanctify it. When you dream of swimming through a black ocean, you may be witnessing your own rebirth. When you see a lost child in your dreams, you may be encountering the young soul in you still seeking the way home. And when the same number, animal, or image keeps returning, don't dismiss it. It is the soul inviting you in. Florence wrote, "Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving." Symbols allow us to see what we never dared to see. They open the door of imagination not to escape reality, but to bring light into it. When you begin to live with symbols, the unknown no longer frightens you. Each strange dream becomes a myth. Each life event becomes a sacred chapter. Each old wound becomes a holy mark, a place where you can lay your hand and pray. Now is the time to return to this sacred language. Not with the dissecting mind, but with presence. Write down your dreams. Draw what you see when you close your eyes. Dare to believe if a symbol repeats, it is no accident, it is destiny sending you a letter. You don't need to be an artist. You don't need to be a philosopher. You only need the courage to look within. As Florence said, there is no loss in divine mind. Every symbol is a message you were never abandoned. You have always been guided. If you've ever had strange dreams, if you've been drawn to a certain image and never known why, if you feel something deeper calling to you, you are not alone. We're building a space for souls like yours where you can share the symbols that visit you and listen to the symbols that visit others. Leave a comment. What symbol has appeared again and again in your life? Maybe it's a butterfly, a circle, a teacher, or just a shade of blue. You've always loved. Speak it aloud, for in naming it, you activate its healing power for yourself and for us all. And in the next part, we'll reach the summit of this journey. Individuation, becoming whole. No longer running from shadows, no longer depending on love to fill the void, no longer fearing symbols, but standing firm as a soul united, light and dark, reason and intuition, outer and inner. Stay with us because what comes next is your greatest encounter, yet the moment you meet yourself. Symbols are gateways. Listen to them. Walk through. On the other side is not another world, but your true self smiling, waiting. Individuation, becoming whole. You did not come into this life to be a copy of someone else. You came to be you, not a version trimmed and tailored to fit the expectations of parents, schools, or society, but you in your original essence, whole, raw, irreplaceable. Carl Jung called this journey individuation, the process by which the soul becomes distinct and whole, not to separate from the world, but to harmonize with it through your own unique light. Florence Scovel Shinn once wrote, "There is a place that you are to fill and no one else can fill it." Individuation is not self-improvement in the way we usually hear it. It's not about adding more knowledge, skills, achievements. It's about shedding, peeling away every mask, every borrowed belief, every stored wound, until only one thing remains: yourself, your sacred, unchanging core. The self does not come from the outside. It rises from within, from dreams, from inner conflict, from darkness, from that quiet voice that made you turn left when the world went right. It doesn't shout, but once you hear it, it leads you home. Florence wrote, "Man's only enemy is doubt. Faith is the key." And indeed, the greatest obstacle to individuation isn't the outer world, it's the inner voice of doubt. Doubt that you matter, doubt that your soul has a purpose, doubt that your wounds could ever become light for someone else. But then comes a day when you look in the mirror and see not a label, a role in age, but a pair of clear, calm eyes that know who they are. And on that day, you stop chasing validation because you validated yourself. Individuation is when you can say, "I embraced my shadow because it taught me about the light. I don't need to be loved by everyone. I choose to be loved by my soul. I don't run from fear. I invite it to sit down and speak. I no longer seek outside because inside me is a universe." This is not an event. It is a life, a way of seeing, a way of walking through the world with an open heart, awakened eyes, and a soul rooted between heaven and earth. You might ask, how do I begin the journey of individuation? You don't need a grand plan. Begin with radical honesty. Each time you say yes when your soul says no, pause. Each time you smile to please when you want to cry, ask yourself, what part of me is being forgotten? When jealousy, pain, or fear arise, don't suppress them. Hold them like a trembling child, for they are the self trying to speak. Write down the things you once loved, the dreams you buried, the desires you were told were too much. Find them. Paint, sing, dance, create, not for success, but to hear your soul sing again. Individuation is not about becoming someone. It's about becoming yourself. It's walking with faith, just as Florence taught. The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later. So send out love. Send light, integrity, courage, not for others, but because you deserve to live in that sacred frequency. And if you're on this journey and sometimes feel lost, doubtful, alone, know this: you are not walking alone. There are thousands of other souls walking beside you, stumbling, rising, dreaming. Share with us in the comments, what is awakening in you? Maybe it's the urge to create, to slow down, to return to your essence. Let your words become a torch guiding others. And if someone else's story speaks to you, respond. Connect. Together, we're weaving the soul map of humanity. And in the final chapter, we'll pause to breathe, to name the journey we've taken. So you can see how every symbol, every shadow, every wound has led to one destination, the awakening of the self. Stay with us because the ending is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter in you. You were not born to live halfway. You came to be fully alive, radiant, complex, contradictory, but true like the first light after the storm. Coming home where the self awaits. You've traveled far with me, from shadow to light, from dream symbols to the soul's quiet calling. And now, as we arrive at the final moment of this video, I want to say something simple. Welcome home. Not the home of walls and roofs, but the home within you. The place where your soul has always been quietly tending to each forgotten dream. Where every shattered piece finds its place in the one true mosaic you. Florence Scovel Shinn once wrote, "The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace." And I believe that right now, in the quiet resonance you feel inside, you are stepping into that sacred land. Not through a grand act, but with a gentle yes whispered to yourself. Because everything you've been seeking, love, meaning, recognition, was never out there. It has always been within you, buried beneath dust and doubt and forgetting. Today you wiped away a little of that dust, and the light is beginning to break through. You don't need to become someone special. You only need to be true to your soul. Every time you allow yourself to cry, to say no to what no longer fits, to speak your truth, you take one step closer to yourself, You may not have all the answers, and that's okay. As Florence reminded us, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. Let uncertainty be your companion. Let your heart be guided not by fear, but by gentle faith. I believe you're exactly where you need to be at the right time, and no step on this soul journey has been wasted. Every video you've watched, every dream you've written down, every feeling you've allowed to exist, they're all threads in the sacred tapestry of your life. If something in this video touched you, please share. Leave a comment. What am I remembering about myself? Maybe it's an old dream, a forgotten feeling, a truth you once carried in your heart. By speaking it, you not only heal yourself, you become a light for someone else who's still searching. No truth is too small. Every honest word carries the vibration of awakening. And who knows, someone on the other side of the world may need your voice to keep going. And if you feel at home in this journey, in a space where the soul is heard, where darkness is not judged, where symbols are invitations to return, then don't hesitate to subscribe. Not to follow, but to connect with yourself, with this awakening community, and with the deeper calling of your soul. We don't promise the path ahead will always be easy, but I promise you this: you will never walk it alone. In each upcoming video, I'll continue offering you messages, symbols, and reflections so you can listen more deeply, love more fully, and live more truthfully than ever before. Return here anytime you need a reminder. Send this video to someone you feel is in need of light, and remember, you are not broken. You are being called home. I thank you not just for watching, but for having the courage to live honestly as yourself. I'll see you in the next video as we continue unfolding the sacred symbols, healing through deep wisdom, and together lighting the way home for the soul. Because you deserve to live as you, fully, radiantly, irreplaceably.